Welcome back to Apartmentalize 2022, the live streaming podcast of the Apartment Academy. I managed to grab Ken Murai, who I met last year, who is the founder and CEO of FacilGo. And I thought we'd talk to Ken a little bit about what they're up to, especially in the single family market. They're doing some interesting things. So Ken, real briefly, tell us a little bit about the company, what you guys do.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for letting us be here. This is such a great event. So FacilGo is a maintenance and renovation platform. We do a lot of work with single family homes around maintenance. The big thing about maintenance is it's really a process that involves a lot of different components. I think people generally think about inspections and work orders and procurement and fixed asset management, inventory management, all these different things as separate functions. But really, when you think about them, they're all a part of a process.
Yes.
And unless the entire system helps you through a full process, it really doesn't help you because you're going between systems, you're not sharing information, you're not collaborating with your residents and suppliers. It's a lot more work, and you don't get the efficiencies or the compliance that you really need. The same is true with the renovation process. And with renovations, not only do you have the project that you have to execute, but you have to think about the financials as well. So what we've done is we've been very thoughtful about how the entire process runs to make sure everything stitches together and you can leverage what you've done in the past to what you do next.
Now, we often, maybe this is my own bias, because I've been in multifamily most of my career, but we often don't think of single-family home operators as having the same level of sophistication as multifamily operators. So tell us, how does all of that translate into the single-family home world? Who's interested in that? Who are your early adopters? Or how are you helping?
Yeah, so it's really interesting how single family looks at maintenance versus multifamily. With single family, the difference is a lot of the portfolios have these scattered homes. They're all over the metropolitan area. And if you can't really efficiently figure out how to service them to make sure there's not repeat visits, that you're choosing your skilled people for the right job and minimizing the amount of driving that you're doing, you won't be able to make any kind of profit on them because sometimes it's an hour drive between homes.
Yeah.
So unless you have the ability to figure out who to staff to a certain job and whether it's an internal technician or external staff, you're not going to be able to run the portfolio efficiently. So it is really important to have the technology to be able to help you through that process. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very difficult. And we've heard, some of our customers before they started using our software, their maintenance managers were spending 70% of their time scheduling. And how can you really run a portfolio efficiently if all you're doing is shuffling the cards? So what we've done is we've dramatically changed that. So and the other thing that the single family operators realize is that their customer experience is all about maintenance. Maintenance is where the residents touch the company. And so if they want to have a good experience and have a good renewal rate, they need to make sure that maintenance process is stellar.
So in that, I heard a little about workforce management. I heard scheduling the right people with the right skills at the right time. How do you guys facilitate that piece?
So we have a lot of tools to be able to help people visualize what they need to do. And then also we have a lot of optimization technology to be able to put the right jobs to the right people. The other thing that we do is we allow a lot of self-scheduling by residents. So, a large part of the maintenance manager's job is now taken away. If you can do self-scheduling, in a way that is accurate and is going to make everybody happy, then you've really got a winning solution. So that's really the two areas that we've really concentrated on.
Yeah, that would be. I think that would be a lot harder in single family than multifamily, where you tend to have like the apartment community has its own website. You've got a portal there. How would you facilitate residents self-selecting a time for maintenance? Are they going to your website? Are you creating some other portal for them?
Yeah, it's a combination of, I think in the with multifamily, a lot of the resident portals don't, there's some level of scheduling, there's some level of matching, but it's not to the same level of working through scheduling over a geographic area, over a team that oversees a large geographic area. And I think that's one of the things that multifamily can really learn from is, we're all running into staffing issues right now.
Right.
Nobody's available. The turnover is extremely high. So how do you deal with that? Well, one way is you outsource everything. The other way is you lower your level of service. I mean, those are two terrible answers. But the third answer really is to use your existing staff in a much more efficient manner. And that's what we do. We help people use their staff, across properties. Because if you think about single family, we're utilizing staff across multiple properties,
yes,
across a wide geographic area. And the same can be done for multifamily.
So single family really leading the charge in centralized maintenance.
I believe so, because I think the challenges are greater, and they spend more on maintenance than multifamily does. And
on a per unit basis?
On a per unit basis.
Uh-huh. Why is that, Ken?
Well, I think a lot of the scattered single family require a lot of more repair.
Uh-huh.
There's just more things that can go wrong in a single family home, and there's not as much standardization as you have in multifamily. I think it'll be different with the BTR communities, since there are new
BTR meaning
build to rent or
yes,
build for rent.
Yeah.
So essentially, what people call them is horizontal multifamily. It's just a multifamily building spread over a larger geographic area, and so for that, people get their yard. They don't have shared walls. It's something that, and investors are very comfortable with it because they can see the comparable of a multifamily property and say, hey, that looks very familiar. And they can also service it in a very similar manner.
So we touched on the workforce management piece. I also heard you mention there was an asset tracking piece. How is that important to single family operators?
Well, I think with every single property owner, tracking assets is very important because you don't know if they're under warranty and you're trying to replace them, if somebody's damaged them and there's still useful life left. How do you track and how do you charge back to the resident when something happens? Or how do you track if something is not there that should be there?
Yeah, right.
So that's the age-old problem. So with single-family homes, it's easier to have those things wander off than it probably is in multifamily.
Yeah, it's unusual for a multifamily resident to leave with a boiler system in their truck.
I'd love to see that, though.
Ken, are you able to talk a little bit about generally kind of the investment market for single family? I mean, you're obviously working with operators. Are you seeing this as a growing part of the market?
Yeah, I think we've all seen that during the last several years, there's really been an underinvestment in the housing stock in general. So there's a big demand because we're just trying to catch up. I think the scattered single-family portfolio, individual home buying.
Yeah, the horizontal multifamily you talked about.
No, the more the scattered, the ones that are existing home stocks that people are trying to buy up here and there. A lot of those opportunities were great several years ago, but there's not as many of them available. So I think we're seeing more people buying portfolios combining, a lot of build to rent being a lot of people pursuing build to rent right now. So there are opportunities, and there certainly is a hunger for them. We just need more housing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You solve that problem, Ken. You can make a lot of money.
Yep, absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about the advantages that you have in the single family market when it comes to pricing. Like there, again, it might be my bias, but I think of single family operators as being pretty thin in terms of budget. Maybe that's the wrong. Maybe that's a misperception. But what can a single family operator really afford to pay for technology on a unit by unit basis?
I think, well, the analogy that I've heard from people in the market is, when they started creating these portfolios, during the housing crisis, the first thing they had to figure out is, wow, I bought some houses that need some work. How do I renovate these? And so they came up with a process for that. Then the next thing was, oh, my renter just moved out. I need to figure out how to turn this thing. So they figured out some simple processes for that. And then in the meantime, they also figured out some simple processes for maintaining the properties. These were all, okay, we're just going to get it done. It may not be the most efficient way of getting these things done, but then they started to look at, okay, now how do we optimize? Yeah. And we're in this cycle right now of trying to figure out how to optimize all of these processes. And there is an appetite because I think technology probably for single family homes is probably provides more contribution to the bottom line than it does for multifamily. I think they're more sensitive on the cost side, and so the benefit that technology can bring is even greater. The value is a lot greater to these single family home operators than it is for multifamily.
Do you think you'll see more of the the Colony American Homes model with the large, funds buying up large, or are we past that now and you're going to see just more, I don't know, call it organic growth in the market?
I think single family rentals are going to follow the same kind of path that multifamily has in terms of consolidation. Right now we have a very, very fragmented market. Still, the amount of rental homes versus multifamily, I mean, we're kind of neck and neck right now. The industry for SFR is pretty nascent. The players are all young. They aren't as large as they could be. And I think a lot of them have aspirations to be extremely large. And I think the market will allow for that, especially as they figure out some of these operational processes being more efficient. That's going to be, a competitive advantage for them. And the ones that can operate really well are going to grow like crazy.
Yeah, and the ones that are operating well, are they using the major PMS systems that we know in the multifamily side, or is there who are you bumping up against in terms of what are they using for an accounting platform?
Yeah, so it's really interesting on the single family side where you see some dissatisfaction. So they are trying to use some of the things that are available with multifamily and try to fit them into single family. What we've really found is that they are two different beasts.
Yeah.
It is very, very different. And so there's a lot of appetite for being able to solve problems right now.
Yeah.
Which
That's
is
a different
great.
business, Ken.
It is.
One business at a time. Okay. Focus on one thing. Well, I want to let you get back to the show. I knew you had kind of a tight time frame, so I appreciate you getting here. Any thoughts you want to leave us with? And if you're thinking about becoming an investor, what you should think about in terms of a technology platform to help you maximize your investment?
Yeah, I think I can't remember. Years ago, there was I was in this one. Some real estate economist was talking, and his advice was borrow money and create these portfolios, borrow $1 billion or more. And so I think the time is now that this is a long-term play, especially for single family, that there's going to be opportunities in the next few years, because if you look long term, the market is very, very healthy. There's opportunities for consolidation. And again, I think you can build economies of scale if you are a very efficient operator. I think whoever figures out the operational efficiencies is going to be able to create a very massive portfolio and do quite well.
All right, and you have a booth here?
We do. We're at booth 606.
All right, so if you want to learn more about what Ken's company does, booth 606. Ken, thanks for jumping in. I hope you have a great show.
You too.
Good
Thanks
seeing you
so
again.
much for thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. All right, we'll come back up next with Amy Weisberger coming on shortly.